हर्षद पारेख सर, देवानंद सर एंड मिलिंद मोरे अपने आप को अनम्यूट कर सकते हैं सर और स्टार्ट कर
चिदानंद जी ने कर लिया है? चिदानंद जी ने कर लिया है?
मैंने म्यूट कर लिया हूँ, मेरा वीडियो ऑन है।
अच्छा अच्छा, ठीक सर, ओके।
Okay. Are we ready now?
यस सर।
या वी आर रेडी सर।
Okay. Good evening, friends. Today's topic is the art of looking, listening, and learning. Now, this phenomenon of looking is physical, physical as well as psychological. Like how we are able to see, like a tree, we are able to see the tree because light falls on the tree and that light is reflected and it enters in our eyes, and an image, very tiny image of the tree is formed on retina, and from there the message goes to the brain, and that inverted image which falls on the retina, it becomes again well. So there is some mystery inside our brain, how the brain is able to make the image upside down. And similarly, listening, what happens that how we are able to listen to a sound which is coming like a bird singing. What happens, like when I am speaking, the vocal cord inside my body is vibrating, and then that makes the air outside vibrate. It produces a wave called longitudinal wave. And when that wave goes into the ear and the drum in the ear begins to vibrate, and then we are able to hear a sound. And learning, of course, we generally, everybody is learning by reading, by experience, by thinking, and so on. I like to say you that when we look at an object, a visible light, which is an electromagnetic wave, and it had a very narrow range of frequency. And our eyes are sensitive only to light starting from red color light to violet color light, because the white light is made of 7 colors. And it is a very narrow range of frequency, like frequency of blue light, which is 400 nanometer, and red light about 700 nanometer. So our eyes are sensitive only to a very narrow range of electromagnetic waves. So we cannot see X-rays, we cannot see infrared, and we cannot see radio waves. And all these waves exist in the space around us, but we cannot sense it, the radio waves or X-rays. So, and similarly, listening, we can listen only to the sound which has a frequency between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz. And so ultra frequency sound we cannot hear. So our body is limited. Our senses are limited. What we know is very, very less compared to what we do not know. Now we coming to the word art. art, by generally we mean that people who are painting, artists or musician or dancers, that is kind of a performing arts. And according the root meaning of the word art is to keep the thing at its right place. That is the root meaning of the word. Now, how we see objects, it varies from person to person according to the background of the person. Like when a flower is shown to different kinds of human beings, the artist, when he looks at the flower, he may like to paint it, and a photographer would like to photograph it, and the scientist would like to put it under a microscope and like to know what is inside the flower, the matter inside the flower, and so on. Uh, but people who are kind of a mystic or spiritually oriented, they can look at the flower without the word, without thinking, and that is a marvelous way of looking in which we can feel kind of a communion with the flower in a non-verbal way. And sometimes poets also, they feel something very, very beautiful. And so there is one song which in old film, ये कौन हंसता है फूलों में छिपकर, means who is smiling in this flower. So our response to things which we see around, it depends on the quality of our mind. If our mind is very, very quiet, very peaceful, we can see things as they are without naming it. And that is what Krishna ji is talking about, the, the art of looking without thinking, without reacting, without bringing in response from the past knowledge, and so on. And similarly, listening. Also, we can listen very well if our mind is very silent, some classical music. And Krishna ji liked listening to classical music of the West, Beethoven or Mozart, and also chanting. The way Krishna ji was listening to the chanting, he was completely into the listening and not thinking about it. And one, Krishnamurti had a friend, Aldous Huxley, and he admired Krishnamurti very much. And they used to go for walks together. And Huxley knew that Krishnamurti was looking in a different way, with a silent mind. But Huxley, he was a very highly intellectual person, and he was not able to look very clearly at the objects when they went for a walk. His mind was working and he would name every object because he had so much knowledge. But he liked the way of looking in a different way, like the way Krishnamurti looked without thinking, without naming. And so Huxley could not do it. But then he came to know that there are certain drugs, if we take these drugs like LSD or mescaline, we can look at the objects in a different way, like the way the religious, spiritual people look. So he experimented with LSD and some other drugs, and he has written a book called Doors of Perception, and it describes his experiences of looking at the objects in a different way. And then he advocated also that people should take drugs. But then what happens that sometimes people can see something very beautiful or when they are under the effect of the drug. And then when they come back to the normal state, they feel life very dull, meaningless. And so they again like to take the drugs and they get addicted to the drugs. And then it does damage to the brain. And it has happened to many people. And I know some people who were taking drugs and then they had a stroke and they died at a young age. So taking drugs to look at the objects in a very beautiful way is very dangerous. And I had met one Swami in Varanasi, Swami Nijabodh. He was about 70 years old and he was living on Hanuman Ghat in Varanasi. And we had gone to see him. And then he had seen Krishnamurti. So he asked me, how, what is the height of Krishnamurti? So I said about 5 feet, 6 inches. Then the Swami said, no, he's much taller. And then he said at one time he saw Krishnamurti very tall, and at one time he saw normal height. Then he asked me about the color of Krishnamurti's skin, and I said it is brown. Then he said, no, Krishnamurti is like a European white skin. And then he again said that Krishnamurti is changing the colors and his height, and he wants you to notice all these things. Then I told the Swamiji that when people take LSD or some other drugs, they can see objects in a different way. Then the Swamiji said that, no, I have never taken any drugs. So I said, okay, maybe some people, when they go very deep into their own mind, their thoughts and feelings, and they become very, very sensitive to looking inward, then the quality of their brain changes and they can feel these changes happening in the brain. And then they can look at the objects without thinking, without reacting, looking at a flower or a tree or a human being as if they are looking for the first time with freshness. And this happened to me also, that I had gone very deep into looking inward after reading Krishnaji, and there are some changes began to happen in my brain, in my body. And first time I came to know how beautiful nature is. And it, it was like a new life. I know that when I was young, before I had gone to any school, I had seen a rose flower in the garden, and there was a dewdrop on the rose, and the sunlight falling on the dewdrop. And when the light entered in my eyes, I saw the dewdrop sparkling like a diamond, and the color of that dewdrop was changing every moment from red to violet. But then I went to school, college, university, and I gathered too much knowledge of the external world, many subjects, many books, and that way of looking went away, like how the children look at it. But then when I came to Krishnamurti's book, and he was talking about how to look at our own thinking and feeling, and um, picking up or going to the source of thinking. And I could do that. And to do that, if you or anyone else wants to look at the beginning of a thought, one needs the freedom to look. It means to be silent, to be very, very curious, attentive, and gathering all the energy, attention to look at the beginning of a thought. And when I was able to do that, I felt for the first time that there is no thinking, and one can have the senses working efficiently without thinking. And then I began to look more often, sitting quietly and looking inward. And slowly I begin to look at nature, at everything, colors, as if I was looking at for the first time. And there was a lot of freshness and a lot of confidence came because I begin to learn about my own problems of loneliness or fear or jealousy, anger. So when we come in direct touch with our own thinking, we begin to learn in a direct way. And it is different than reading Krishnamurti book and then thinking about it and then looking inward. That can also help, no doubt. But many people, in spite of reading books of Krishnamurti for many years, they feel that there has been no fundamental change or transformation in their life. So they still have ambition to become somebody, whether in some organization. They can have fear of future or attachment to power or money or property. So just by reading the books and thinking about it and then looking inward, even then it may not change the fundamental transformation which Krishnamurti was talking about. Okay, now I tell you about a little girl I knew about 1 or 2 years old. And on the full moon night, she was looking at Sharad Purnima, looking at the moon, and she was smiling and pointing out to other people, look at the moon. And maybe she did not know what it was called. So she had no knowledge of what that thing was, but it was very beautiful and she was very sensitive because her mind was not filled with knowledge. But her older sister, who was going to school, she was about 7, 8 years old, she was not able to look at the moon in that way. And during Diwali time, there were beautiful firecrackers going in the sky, colorful patterns. And I called that girl, 7, 8 years old girl, and said, look, and she said, oh, haven't you seen that? And she went away because already at a young age, we get used to seeing things, even beautiful things. We don't know what real beauty is because that sense of beauty comes only when our mind is silent, attentive, and can look without knowledge which we have gathered. That is why Krishnaji told one artist, uh, Krishnaji said to the artist who was depressed, uh, at one time he was very good, but then something happened in his life and he was depressed. And then he came to Krishnaji to discuss about his problem. And Krishnaji said in that dialogue, Krishnaji said, the word parrot has blocked you from looking at the thing which flies. So looking at the parrot is not through the word. And most of us, we already judge something as a good or ugly or something like that. But there is a state in which we can see the real thing behind the word. So the word is not the thing. And all the Krishnamurti's teachings, the words, they are not the thing, the real teaching. The real teachings, we have to see it in ourselves without the word. So that is what the spiritual teachings, whether of Upanishads or Bhagavad Gita, is not the word. And thinking about the word and producing more words, it's not like that. So if it says attachment leads to fear, like if you are attached to somebody and that person looks at another person and you feel jealous. So attachment leads to jealousy. It can lead to anger. It can lead to fear because when that person goes away somewhere and then you worry about that person. So the real teachings are looking at thoughts and feelings without judging, choiceless awareness, which Krishnaji says. And let me see, it is 6:30. Okay, I like to say something about my first meeting with Krishnaji was completely non-verbal in Ojai. He was standing under a tree all by himself after a talk. And a friend of mine said, look, Krishnaji is standing under a tree. Why don't you go and say hello to him? But I had no desire to meet him because his teachings were good enough for me to look at everything. But my friend pushed me. So when I came very close to Krishnaji, his eyes were fully open, but it seemed his mind was not there. So my mind also stopped. And then I extended my hand. He took my hand. And without saying anything, I went back. And in that moment, I understood what Krishnaji says that in real relationship, there are no images. Like most people, when they meet Krishnaji, they already have the image that he is such a great man. And so there is a division when you have that feeling that this is a great person and I am a small person. So there may be self-consciousness or a comparison or inferiority all may exist. So in literature, spiritual literature, this way of looking at the object in nature or everything, it is not looked through the physical eyes, but through the mind. And they say the third eye, Divya Chakshu, the inner eyes are open in some people, and then they see everything very clearly. And now, still we have some minutes, a few 5 minutes. So I will read out to you what Krishnaji has said about the art of looking, listening, and learning. One paragraph. This is what he says. Have you ever sat silently, not with your attention fixed on anything, not making an effort to concentrate, but with the mind very quiet, really still? Then you hear everything, don't you? You hear the far off noises as well as that are nearer and that are very close by. The immediate sound, which means you are listening to everything. Your mind is not confined to one narrow channel. If you can listen in this way, listen with ease, without strain, you will find extraordinary change taking place within you, a change which comes without your volition, without your asking. And in that change, there is great beauty and depth of insight. If you really want to listen, your mind is naturally quiet, is it not? You are then not distracted by something happens next to you. If you can listen in this way, you will find an astonishing transformation taking place in your heart, in your mind, a transformation which you will have not thought of. Such transformation is not possible if you listen superficially. Understanding does not come from effort. It comes when the maker of the effort is silent. In silence, actual transformation takes place. This is taken from This Matter of Culture in 1964. So Krishnamurti has said many, many beautiful things in very simple words. And we don't need to keep on reading again and again. What we need is to sit down quietly and be curious, to look inward and come in direct touch with our mind and feelings and thoughts. And if we can do it, because the first step of sitting quietly and turning the attention inward is the first step, and maybe that could be the last step. Then all the time all one can do is to sit quietly and look inward. And there is the book of our own life is being written every moment. And so instead of reading books of Krishnamurti and discussing about it, we can look at the book of our own life while it is being written. And in that, there is a real direct learning. And suppose if I get angry, if somebody tells me something unpleasant, I cannot blame that person, but I have to look what is it that makes me angry? Is it because I have some idea about me and I have some image and that image is getting hurt? And Krishnaji is explaining all that. So it's very simple actually. The teachings are very simple, very direct. If we can take the first step, and the first step is the last step. Okay, so I have said enough thing. Now, Chedanandji would like to say something. Thank you.
Welcome, Chidananji. We are
Thank
very
you.
much anxious to listen you, sir.
Yes. Thank you. After hearing Harshadji, who shared a lot of very, very wonderful observations, all of us are already driven to a certain silence. Which kind of silence? Our life somehow gets into various artificialities. Life is full of various pressures that we experience. We imagine that we have to be like this or we have to be like that. Sometimes we imagine that somebody is thinking about us in some way, and whether that person is thinking about us in that way or not, our imagining that he or she is thinking about us in some way causes agitation sometimes or happiness at other times. And all this is to be examined. What I called artificiality. We utterly lose the innocence of our childhood. Our adult life becomes so complicated. It is true that thoughts are all the time creating one illusion after another. And if we try to solve this problem by thinking more, by reading another book, or by going on talking something that we had read somewhere, the problem gets more complicated. Therefore, it is to be understood, or I must say, we all must understand the place of silence, the place of quiet watchfulness. And I hesitate to say it should be watchfulness towards our own thoughts or feelings, because as we examine the beautiful teachings of Krishnaji, we realize that he does not so much make a division. For if someone creates a certain model that, oh, I must now watch my thoughts, my emotions, I must cleanse myself, I must free myself, I must do this to myself. In the process, this lady or man gets so obsessed with herself or himself. This self-realization or self-inquiry or self-knowledge or self-observation, you call it whatever you may, becomes another trap into which we fall. Therefore, while it is true to some extent that it is our thoughts which create artificialities, build an ego, and generate baseless fears or unnecessary regrets and so on. We need not and should not get caught in this business of watching our own thoughts. Because when we draw a dividing line, me and my thoughts, others and their problems, that becomes another artificiality. Yes, in sitting quietly, in fact, we must hesitate to say even the word sitting, because sitting becomes another compartmentalization. Really speaking, insights can happen while we are walking. Insights can happen while we are talking. Insights can take place even while we are conducting a transaction. However, many times we use the expression, let's sit down silently. There's a reason, I guess, for that. For when we are transacting, when we are walking or talking, there is a certain likelihood. We can only talk in terms of likelihood or probability. When we are transacting, there is a likelihood of our getting more caught in some gain and loss and so those things. So by saying, let us sit down and look, let us sit down and listen, let us sit down and learn. I wonder why we say this sit down, but it seems to me that this sitting down is more indicative of letting go of any obsession with playing particular roles. Generally, we have a role that we take up, we cling to an image that we have of ourselves. We have all ideas of being senior or junior, being a teacher or disciple or the taught. We have countless ideas of who we are, and these ideas of who we are also need to be re-examined. Therefore, sitting down is not so much physically sitting down, but sitting down is letting go of our clinging to any particular idea of who we are. Suddenly it occurs to me without planning that the word Upanishad has the last part, sad. Sad means to sit down. In fact, sad is to sit with the preposition ni. Nisad means to sit down. So the rishis of India also asked us to sit down. And I would dare say that the rishis also did not imply so much physical sitting down, but I guess they wanted us to let go of any image that we may have of ourselves. This topic of this evening, looking, listening, and learning, has tremendous significance to the quality of our living. We do not live fully if we have not learned to listen. Our living is so superficial, so pretentious, and quite egoistic if we do not listen, if we do not look. The more we are in our own world, the more is the falsehood which we invite into our life. Therefore, this looking, listening, and learning is a way of pointing to the possibility of stepping aside from falsehood. Asatoma sadgamaya, they say. Let us go away from asat and let us move towards sat. Now, where is this asat? When we are not listening, there is asat. When we are not looking, there is asat. And when we refuse to learn and are bent upon proving our point, when we are adamant on telling someone, I am right, you are wrong, then there is asat. That doesn't mean that we must surrender to Tom, Dick, and Harry at the drop of a hat. The point is to have about us a certain tentativeness. Yes, I could be wrong, she could be right. And another time, well, though she is very learned lady, looks like in this discussion she seems to have taken a wrong step. I don't know. She could be wrong, I could be right. And to see that the she and I or he and I are not important. What is important is to find out what is right. What is right is to be found out. Whether he said the truth or I said the truth is to be understood as